morning. The moon will set at 5:41 this evening and rise at 6:20 tomorrow morning, and then sunset is at 5:40 this evening and sunrise at 5:43 tomorrow morning. The extended forecast. Skies will be cloudy at times. A few showers and isolated thunderstorms will occur mostly over inland and some northern areas on Thursday, and then over most places on Thursday night. The sargassum update. No significant increase in sargassum is expected over the area during the next few days. And now for a look at the tropics. At 3 a.m., Hurricane Kirk was centered near latitude 17.5 north and longitude 42.1 west, or about 1,200 miles west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Kirk was moving to the northwest at 14 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. Then, showers and thunderstorms associated with an area of low pressure located a few hundred miles south-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands show signs of organization. This system, known as Invest 91, currently has a high chance of developing into a tropical depression during the next 48 hours. Also, there is a broad trough of low pressure which is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms over the southwestern Caribbean Sea into the southern Gulf of Mexico. This disturbance currently has a low chance of formation during the next 48 hours. However, environmental conditions could support some gradual development and a tropical depression could form over the weekend. The National Meteorological Service continues to closely monitor its progression. And this has been this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
Making news this morning, the government of Belize on Tuesday issued a statement expressing grave concern at the escalation of war on the part of Israel, which has led to a recent increase in death and destruction consuming Gaza and the West Bank in Palestine and has now spread to Lebanon. The government writes the increasing violence against civilians caused by the Israeli state, in particular through the weaponizing of civilian devices like pagers to cause the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians and the continued Israeli use of selective assassinations threatens to ignite a full-scale conflagration of unimaginable consequences. The Belize government deems this violence illegal, immoral, and inhumane and calls for it to stop while imploring Israel to abide by the decisions of the International Court of Justice. Additionally, the government of Belize says Israel must agree to an effective ceasefire, allow humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza unimpeded, and lift the illegal siege of Gaza. It adds there must also be an immediate unconditional release of hostages held by the resistant groups and by the Israeli state. Belize affirms that there will never be peace in the region until Israel abides by the decisions of the United Nations and fully respects the right of the Palestinian people to full self-determination. Yesterday, international media reported that Iran launched dozens of missiles towards Israel in what is believed to be a response to Israel's killing of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. The Iran attack has spawned fears of a widening regional conflict, given that Israel has vowed to respond. As reported by CNN, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated after the attacks, Iran made a big mistake tonight and it will pay for it. The regime in Iran does not understand our determination to defend ourselves and our determination to retaliate against our enemies. Prime Minister John Briceño traveled to Mexico on Monday to attend the inauguration of Mexico's first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum, yesterday. Sheinbaum's installation was attended by several government leaders from across Latin America. Absent, though, were the presidents of El Salvador and Argentina. Also absent was the King of Spain, whom Sheinbaum, along with her predecessor, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, decided not to invite over a row about an apology for the Spanish conquest. In the case of Belize, Briceño hopes that the collaboration that existed between two nations under AMLO will continue with Sheinbaum. In particular, Belize is hoping for increased provision of electricity through Mexico's CFE. On Saturday, when we had the opportunity at the PUP's National Party Council meeting, we asked Minister of Sustainable Development, Honorable Orlando Hyde, to respond to the accusation from the opposition United Democratic Party that the 6 transfer stations for waste across the country have been abandoned. There is one in every district except Corazal and Cayo has 2. Hyde told us that the transfer stations were poorly built under the UDP and are therefore not suited for purpose. He added, though, that the country needs to move in the direction of separating garbage.
Well, let us recall that they are the ones who built these transfer stations and built badly. They were not built to scale. They were not built to do the job that they were supposed to do. For example, if you look at the transfer stations, most of them are like 8 or 10 feet with concrete, and from there it has laminate zinc. But one of the requirements for the contractors to be able to move the solid waste is to compact it and then put it into their trucks, because you don't want them to be transporting just volume, you want them to be transferring the weight. The way they compact it is to get a machine that will push it against the wall, compress it, and then you can't push it against the wall, because the time that they have done that, they push it against the zinc and the zinc flies off, and then you have all the buzzards and everything coming in. So that's a problem. I think they can work. What we have to do is that we have to realize that people, as they become more affluent, they purchase more. There's a lot more garbage that has to be thrown out. And so we have to look at that, study that, and then see how we can manage to come into the program which we have already discussed with the Department of the Environment and Solid Waste, to be able to start, even if it's just a start, but nationally, to start separating garbage. Because if we have the plastics being recycled eventually, and the trees and limbs and other organics can be chopped up into mulch and recycled, used for fertilizers or whatever, then we only have very little garbage that would have to be transported. So we have to look at it from that standpoint. We are in discussion though, and cabinet paper will soon be taken to cabinet from my ministry to see how we can make some changes.
Appeal to the government of Belize to change the Pensions Act to prevent retired public officers from coming back into the public service and collecting both a pension and salary. This is a call the PSU has been making for some time, and we put the request to the Prime Minister on Saturday. Here are both their comments.
Let's not forget the former Prime Minister of this country changed the Pensions Act to allow for double dipping. The Pensions Act used to state clearly, if there is a lack of expertise in a certain area, then the government has the right to bring back that expertise until such time that it can be acquired by another public officer. However, anybody that is employed in the public service should not be receiving a pension, or a pension shall not be payable to anybody that is employed in the service. He changed that legislation, and then the abuse and the floodgates opened up. So you have people taking home pension in the thousands of dollars, and you have them earning an income perhaps not perhaps, but perhaps 2 times or 3 times the thousands of dollars that they're in. It's double dipping. It's costing the Belizean people. And if this administration is serious and they want to continue bringing back contract officers and retired public officers in the numbers that they're doing, then they need to change the Pensions Act. They need to make an amendment to the Pensions Act quickly to save not me, but the Belizean people millions of dollars that are being paid out as we speak in double dipping by the contracting of retired public officers.
They're saying that the government should amend the Pensions Act to undo something the former Prime Minister did to bring back people who have retired, and he's saying that is costing millions.
Oh, you're talking about the double dipping. Yes. That's something that we changed under the PUP, and we're prepared to take a look at it.
And that ends the morning news inside the WUB. Wake up Belize Morning Vibes. You're watching XTV, you're listening to Creme Radio. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back on the other side, it's about the conversation. Lift up, raise up, wake up. That's what we've got going on until 9 this morning. Wake up Belize Morning Vibes. We'll be right back.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information.
All right, welcome back. WB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Mose Hyde in the house on this Wednesday morning, 2nd day of October. It's also YouTube day for us. XTV Belize is back up finally after being off YouTube for 3 months. So we're celebrating. And you know, when you're celebrating, you have to put out invitation to, you know, as to what you call the they call in Hollywood the A-star list of celebrities to come by. And so we are celebrating YouTube Day this morning by inviting the most interviewed man in Belize, the most interviewed person in Belize, the Commissioner of Police, Commissioner Chester Williams. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Brother Mose, and thanks for the invitation.
I wasn't trying to disturb your schedule. I understand you had a whole day plan, and then here comes WB, getting you here on the show this morning. You agree that you are the most interviewed person in Belize?
Well, I tried as best as I can not to shy away from the media.
You are the opposite of the former Commissioner, Commissioner Wiley, who I lambasted for a while as being the most the most quiet and unavailable commissioner in history. Were you there looking at him and say, okay, well, when I get my turn, Commissioner, I know I'll get accused of that. Was that your thinking?
Well, I have a different mindset. I believe that as a Commissioner of Police, I am accountable to the public. And the way I can account to the public is by coming on these shows and accepting interviews, where you all can interview me and I can explain to the public what the police is doing to make them safe. So I see it as a part of my responsibility.
You're a modern commissioner, you're a social media commissioner, you are... you love the camera.
No, the camera love me, man.
All right. Let me just mention it on the telephone line. It's 2805848. So, you know, I'm just a talk show host, but I've been kind of very, for a while, even with my dear brother and co-host and elder brother Noor, we've had some clashes here on the show. And, you know, I have been very critical of you on several occasions. I don't like be critical about somebody all the time behind their back. I don't know if you're years. So I decided I better invite you here so that you're aware, so that maybe, you know, be so... I don't want you to be so what I call cordial with me based on the fact that you don't know the language. I prefer to know exactly where we stand. Right out the starting gate, Commissioner, I am no fan of the SOE. I have watched your responses in interviews, and you believe that it's effective and this is what has to be used. And I've heard you put forward certain arguments. I am staunchly opposed to the SOE. Do you believe that means that is the same as being somebody that loves bad people and I'm trying to be popular with bad people? Do you think that those people who have a problem with the SOE, you think they're just bad people lovers, criminal lovers, lovers of people who do bad things?
I wouldn't say that, but Mose, I think that as Belizeans, as right-minded people, we're entitled to our opinions, and the SOE can be looked at from some perspective as a matter of human rights issues. We also have issues from the human rights organizations that express some discontent over it. And we also have those persons who we call the constitutionalists, who may also want to look at it as a breach of constitutional norms. I wouldn't agree with that aspect of it because the Constitution do provide for the SOE. And again, just like you, it's not something that we do proudly. As myself have said, and the minister himself have also said, that we try as best as we can to employ other crime-fighting strategies in order to be able to contain the violence on the streets. You would know that our young people have a very high propensity for violence now as opposed to before. And it is starting from a very early age. And so when we have employed all other avenues and those fail, then the next thing for us to do is to go to the most drastic one, which we don't like to do, but as a measure of, as a means of last resort, we would normally do it. And Brother Nuri will tell you that he himself has been extremely occupied on the streets with these young men. Even before we call SOE, we'll draw to their attention things that we observe in their respective neighborhoods. We would talk to them, do interventions, do mediations. The LIU, through Sister Dominique, also trying with them, giving them employment, providing salaries for them. And despite that, we still see at times they run afoul of the law. What then can we do? Do we just stand aside and watch them eliminating themselves, or do we do something to intervene to stop the bloodshed? I think that the latter would be the appropriate choice. I honestly believe that had it not been for the SOE, many of those young men who are alive today would have been dead. So while we do sympathize with them and so forth, sometimes there's what you call tough love. I love you, but I have to take tough measures to make sure that you remain safe, and that's what we have to do at times.
How many individuals are you okay with processing through the SOE who are not involved in active street conflicts?
We try as best as we can, but most not to capture persons who are not involved in street conflicts.
I understand
Yes.
that. I would hope so. I assume that. I assume that you will do your very best to only to be perfect, but there is no way for you to be perfect. Not even the judiciary is able to be a perfect place to convict only the guilty or to declare innocent only the innocent. The record shows you repeatedly that there is bias, people make errors in judgment, and that's a whole drawn out process. We are talking here about a very condensed time period where you're working on a police intelligence, and humans are prone to error. So I think you would accept that there's no way you can give a guarantee, for example, that all 130 individuals held in this last SOE are all active people in street conflicts.
Well, but I would agree with you that the fact that we are human beings and we are subject to the ills of human nature, we may never be perfect in what we do, but we try as best as we can to be as perfect as we could. When we do round up these young men under the SOE, we would do a filtering, and the filtering would be done based on intelligence. We would have our special branch or GI3 officers who would gather intelligence on those persons who are active in the ongoing street rivalries, and those are the persons that we would normally send up to prison. And again, yes, intelligence may be faulty, and so I have to agree. But I can tell you that there were a number of persons that were brought in initially were detained, and as a result of that filtering process, they were released. And when we look at the society itself, no gang member would say, open a beer up family member. And likewise, the family members, no family members will come and say, oh, my son is a gang member and he belongs in prison. They're all going to defend them and say that their son is innocent. But sometimes I would call it a criminal system. That indeed their children may be doing something out of the ordinary and may be involved. And I would now advise them that it's important for them to monitor more the activities of their children. Sometimes the parent may be right to say that they have no knowledge of what their children is doing out in the streets. But what your child do in front of you and what they do behind your back are two different things. So they might come home and pretend to be so innocent, but during the daytime or in the nighttime, they're out hanging out with friends, doing things that would not be sanctioned by you. So I honestly believe that the persons who we had detained on the last SOE were persons who were deserving of being detained. If I am wrong about that, there is certainly room for errors that
you concede that you're not able to give a guarantee that every single member that was held is unquestionably a person that's involved in the actual business of street violence?
I am guided by the intelligence that we receive, and by that I can say definitely those persons were deserving to be under the SOE. If the intelligence is faulty at some point in time, then I would concede that person.
So I would counter and say, if the intelligence is as impeccable as we would want it to be, why is that intelligence not able to be the foundation on which you are able to pursue and punish individuals, say for example, for being involved, not even at the level of say convict them of a particular crime, but we know that the laws are such that being an affiliate of a gang is illegal. How is it, if that intelligence is so impeccable, that we cannot use that intelligence in a due process procedure to then achieve the same goal of holding people accountable for their actions?
Because of the structure of our legal system, Brother Mose, intelligence is not evidence. There's a difference between the two of them. Our court system under the Constitution, Section 6, which speaks to the fact to equality before the law, it says that you who is accused of a crime have a right to be able to meet and interview or cross-examine your accuser. You may be a part of a gang, and you may come to the police and say, I'm a member of this gang, these are the members, these are the activities that we're engaged in, but you would give me that information confidential. You wouldn't want the other gang members to be aware of what you're telling me, because by then becoming aware of that, then that puts you at peril. So while the police may get the intelligence, we will not get the evidence that we need to be able to prosecute the individuals. Again, in a court of law, you require evidence. You cannot just come to court and say, based on intelligence, XYZ. No.
So to some extent, you're saying that intelligence is sketchy evidence.
I wouldn't say it's evidence per se, because evidence is based on what is going to be used in a court of law. We cannot use intelligence in a court of law because, again, it is important to safeguard the identity of the source.
See, I am able to concede that some of the people held the likelihood that they're involved in street violence. No, see, for me, I use that term intentionally because I, and you are aware of this, you were born, you didn't choose where you were born. You don't choose where your parents live or your parent live or your family lives. So you're born in an era that has already been deemed. If you're 20 years old and you were born in certain parts of Belize, that area was deemed a gang area before you were even born. So you are born, and you are born into suspicion. You are, by your address, already will be looked at as an affiliate, because unless it is you decide, I don't want to talk to nobody from around here, I don't want to chill with nobody from around here, I want to have no relationship from around here, somebody could observe you and deem you to be an affiliate, even though you are not a part of the riding to go to hurt, you are not a part of the active process of street violence. You are branded as that. It's until you are able to move from that location, it is very difficult for you to escape police intelligence that sees you operating in that area, see that you know that one, and sometimes you might go to the club with that one and say, oh, he in the rule with them, he not one of them. And so when this crew have a problem with that crew, well, we go for all of that. The threshold for the confirmation that you're involved with street violence, to some extent, you cannot separate the fact that intelligence must meet one level of evidence. You must be able to say, listen, this is what we have that shows that this individual is active in this game. And I'm not asking you to divulge how police intelligence works, but what I suggested, Commissioner, is that if the intelligence is as stellar, is as formidable as to make you feel confident to put someone in jail without due process, it must at least be able to form the foundation, not the evidence that creates the conviction, but at least form the foundation. And you must have a strong foundation. If the intelligence is that good, it should be a part of a strong foundation to be able to pursue accountability for bad actions.
Well, firstly, I will say that I do not really agree with your perspective that because a person is born on the south side of the city, that they are looked upon by law enforcement as being involved in gangs. I have encountered many law-abiding young men on south side of the city who actually live in the trenches, and they turn out to be very productive Belizeans. I look, for example, at a young man who is vying for the PUP in the Colette Division. He's born and grown in the Colette Division, and an area that is extremely prone to gang violence. And if you look at him, he is very intelligent.
You will be accused of publicly speaking favorable of a political aspect.
Well, I'm just trying to give an example. And I could also equate that to even look at maybe even Patrick Faber, look at Dean Barrow. Those are people from Southside Belize City. Look at the Honorable Cordial Hyde, he's from Southside Belize City. So we have many people who are from Southside Belize City who are extremely productive people. Again, it has a lot to do more with your involvement. There's nothing wrong for you to speak with a gang member, especially if they live in your area where you live. There's nothing wrong with that. The issue, it becomes an issue when you become a part of their enterprise, when you have been used to carry out activities on their behalf, maybe transporting drugs, transporting guns, committing robberies, committing murders. These are things that would normally bring you into the fray of being an affiliate of a gang. And when it comes to the issue of intelligence, well, I'm not going to divulge to you the whole process of it. But when we do get intelligence, intelligence is normally graded. You have A1, A2, A3, or B1, B2, B3. The alphabet refers to the source, and number refers to the credibility of the source or the information. So if I have an A1 information, it means that the source is always reliable and information has been checked out. If I have, for example, a B3, means that the source is unreliable and information is unconfirmed. So if you have, for example, in most cases, with these persons, the intelligence is going to be A1 because the information will come to the police from within the same gangs that are operating. Because, like I said, they do provide the police with information confidentially. The police cannot therefore divulge the identity of these sources because it then puts them at peril among their own peers.
Yeah. Again, this is the point I'm making is that there is no doubt that people are familiar that you're going to have your sources, but we have seen time and time again, even in processes that involve due process, when somebody's going to accuse someone, that individual has to meet a certain threshold of credibility. And the reason for that is because we all have biases, prejudices, we all have our little agendas. Every single person has the agenda. So even though I might be somebody that is deep in that hood and we give them an A category, if the SOE apparatus is going to be built on that person's credibility, that person is an individual that has been tremendously empowered to determine people's freedom or whether or not this person is going to be incarcerated. Without any accountability, without any liability, they will tell somebody who is working on behalf of police intelligence. Person A, person C, person D, person E. And this is not to say that that is not a valuable relationship to have, but the whole process of determining incarceration based on that is the empowerment of an individual who faces no accountability for how they are deciding who goes in and who goes out. And the initial question I asked Commissioner, because I look at the system and say that it might be good enough to get a batting average of about, say, 80% of the people held are actively involved, which would be high. That would be fantastic performance of the intelligence apparatus to have 80%. But it would mean that the state and the department would be willing to accept a 20% rate of collateral damage. And I'm asking, is there a percentage of collateral damage that you're okay with to say, listen, somebody good will have to suffer for the bad because we need to stop the violence? To some extent, one has to negotiate that. One has to confront that, don't you?
Well, of course, there are going to be those persons who are going to challenge, and some may succeed, some may not. At the end of the day, when you look at the persons who are detained and the SOE, again, like I said, the police have to do some verification in order to be able to rate the level of intelligence that we receive. And those persons, if you were to look at their history, you'd see that those are also persons who have been involved in the court system, having been charged with some crime of violence or the sort. So again, that will go to show that the people who were detained were actually the ones who were creating the problems on the streets. Yes, like you rightly said, there may be a few of them who may not have been active at that particular moment. That may be the case. But from our intelligence, which we are guided by, as far as we are concerned, they were a part of the problem.
Now, moving on to the matter of another concern of mine, you notice I'm not even talking about the matter of the human rights and the constitutional aspect of it. I'm not about to have a constitutional argument with a trained attorney. My view of it is not the one you have. I feel that fundamentally it's a breach. But to some extent, when you are able to utilize this mechanism without due process, where is the incentive for the department and for the entire security apparatus of the state and the judiciary to reach a point where it lifts its capacity to be able to investigate in such a way, to prosecute in such a way as to become more effective and precise in dealing with the legitimate bad actors? If you are able to use a shortcut to say, we will jail you even without that process. We will essentially convict you based on intelligence and punish you without due process, without you being able to see your accuser, without you being able to give a rebuttal. You are taken and punished preemptively. If you are able to do that, and now you hear the suggestions coming up, and I don't know where you stand on it, but we heard a senator representing the business sector say we should consider whether or not this is a thing that should be indefinite. We are now gone from 30 days to 90 days. And it seems like everybody like how we work, and the appetite for it is growing. And I can tell you, based on just the anecdotal calls that we have gotten whenever we talk on this subject, we've had multiple people come in here, real fanboys of Bukele in Salvador's approach. Many fanboys and fangirls. So we know the appetite for that is growing.
Yeah.
So now, if you are now looking at the solution as being the elimination of your rights to due process as our way to permanent stability and peace in the streets, it's kind of like, okay, well, we don't need to become better investigators. We don't need to become better prosecutors. We don't need to figure out, for make the intelligence step up to the level of evidence so that we can get convictions, as challenging as that is. Indeed, we've not been able to do it. But that doesn't mean that we should then become, in my view, violators of rights, because we have lacked the ability to rise above the sophistication of the bad actions and to prove them guilty of it.
Well, Brother Mose, again, investigation is based on information received from human beings. Investigation produces evidence.
You get it from forensic experts.
No, I'll get to that right now. I'll get to that right now. We have to get people who would be witnesses of crime to come forward and give the police evidence in writing that the police will be able to use in a court of law. Many a times when you do have these gang-related incidents, people are so afraid to give statements openly against gang members because of fear of retribution. So you'd find that when you have a gang killing or a gang-related crime, it is extremely harder to detect than a non-gang related crime. And if you look at our statistics, you'll show that the non-gang related murders, we have a very, very high solvability rate. When it comes to the gang murders, the solvability rate is low. We have tried our best to be able to become more innovative in terms of how we operate and conduct investigation. Innovations come in the form of technology. So we have the street surveillance camera system. We have improved the forensic services. We're getting very shortly the field DNA testing. In the absence of that, we do send samples abroad for DNA testing. And we have also been using the ballistic examination. Again, these are things that we use to be able to enhance our ability to solve crime. So in circumstances where we do have evidence that can be used and verified through forensic evidence, then we do that. But in some of these cases, we don't have that. And then we would have to rely on the human element of it. And the human element is what normally fails. And again, as an attorney, I would never ascribe to a system where people's rights are taken away. And so the Salvador model, I would never accept. In terms of what we do under the SOE, it is not as draconian as what Salvador does, because while you have said that it takes away...
a diluted version of it.
You have said it takes away the human rights to due process. The Constitution do provides in Section 19 that after a certain period of the SOE, that they must be afforded the opportunity to go before a tribunal, and that tribunal is then going to review the cases and determine whether or not the detention of the detainee must continue or recommend that the person be released from prison. That recommendation goes to the minister. Yes, it did say again that the minister do not have to accept the recommendations of the board, but notwithstanding that, the opportunity for due process is still there. So had the SOE extended beyond the 3 months process, the review of the cases would have had to continue for as long as the SOE would have been kept. And again, going to our investigative mechanism, I can say to you that during the time of the detention of the SOE people, we were able to solve 8 murders that had happened long before. So these were cases that were already closed, and we were able to open back.
You were able to arrest people, but
it's still solved. There's a difference in terms of when you go to court, if you go to get a conviction, but under the term
that means that you do not equate the court's conviction as the as the only opinion on whether or not somebody has done it.
No,
or not.
there are different categories, but Mose. When the police make an arrest, the police solve a case. Whether you get conviction, that's a different category. Right?
So when the court says no,
does not mean that the police did not solve the case, because remember, when a court acquits a person or dismiss a charge, it does not mean that the person did not commit that crime. Sometimes it's because of the failure of evidence. Many times the people who are supposed to be witnesses and supposed to go to court do not show up before the court. So if the witness do not show up, then the court will not be able to hear the evidence to be able to convict that person. So many times when a court do acquit a person, it's not because the person is not the person who did the crime. Yes, the court did not find them guilty because of whatever reason, but the fact is the police were able to find the person who they believe had committed that crime.
Now, you said something interesting. You said that you do not subscribe to Bukele, but I'm telling you that at the end of the day, this is a diluted version of it, and we are making it a little stronger. We've gone from 30 to 90 days, and that we are starting to hear the rumblings about people who feel like, well, why should we not be having a conversation about it being an indefinite thing? So I don't know that you can say that you are not a fan of Bukele. You might say, well, I don't want to go as far as Bukele, but definitely you're aligned with his thinking to some extent. That to deal with street violence, you need to go. You have to bend your commitment to fundamental human rights and be willing to do so. And that is what he has done, and that's what the SOE represents.
But then, Brother Mose, do you blame Bukele? Again, we can sit and criticize the man, but do you blame him for doing what he can to keep his people safe? If we were to look at what Salvador was before Bukele.
Well, no, I get you for being. Right? I get you now to speak honestly now, Panamata. You're being sympathetic to Bukele
yes,
now.
So
you are you're sounding like one of the fanboys of Bukele now.
No, but you have to really and truly analyze why he got to that position that he is currently doing now. If it is that you are doing all you can to keep your people safe, and you have this handful of people who constantly torment those people who want to live a normal life, are you going to sacrifice the rights of the majority in order to facilitate the minority? I don't think so. So that's perhaps the reason why Bukele is doing what he's doing. And those people in Belize who are calling for similar actions as Bukele has taken in Salvador, you can't blame them. If you look at how peaceful the country was when these detainees were detained, that's what people want. So the thing here now is for those young men who are involved in the street conflicts to really come to the realization that, you know what, our actions of hunting down each other and killing each other has become so intolerable by the ordinary people. Let us change our ways so that we don't have to end up back in prison under SOE or whatever the case.
How many SOEs have we had?
Under this government, I think we have had...
Total among, is it like 5 or 6?
About 6.
Okay, so we've had 5 or 6 SOEs. So as far as some type of permanent mechanism, the fact that you've had to do it 6 times, the fact that you've now gone from 30 days to 90 days speaks to the fact that, you know, it's temporary and it doesn't create any change in the conflict dynamics on the streets. And we understand why, because what's at play here beyond everything, all the other factors that are involved, there is the matter of vengeance and the matter of vengeance and the matter of forgiveness. And sometimes a particular conflict might go dormant, like the way a volcano might be quiet for a while and then it erupts, because that dormancy is misleading. You still have the volcanic conditions underneath the surface. and so these things erupt from time to time, different conflicts take place. But I find it interesting that you say, well, you can't blame people where look on Bukele and like Bukele. And that means that, again, that you have a respect for the approach and for the thinking. I don't know then why you would not be a complete, acknowledge that you are really a fanboy of Bukele, because you have not suggested on what grounds you are not supportive of Bukele.
I like the approach and thinking of a priest, of a pastor. I would never be one.
You'd never be one.
No.
All right. But, it's a great cheeky response. But the bottom line is that you are not in the business of converting souls. But in the case of this, you are in the business of being responsible for the security and the safety of the community. And so you are in the business that Bukele is in. And so the fact that you support that doctrine means that it's potential that is what you start to preach from your pulpit. So that's the reality there. Unless it is I don't know something about you that maybe on weekends you go looking for saving souls and you're going to open up a church at some point in time. But I've not heard such a rumor about you. What I've heard are rumors about your political aspirations, but not about your evangelizing and going the route of, being the savior of the lost sheep. But Commissioner, we look at you saying that things have been done in a way to say that, well, listen, this is the unsolvable problem. Everybody has heard the problem of the terrified, intimidated witness, the person who knows information and won't go to a court. This is the unsolvable thing. This is the thing that makes you unable to hold people accountable for bad actions. And what you seem to suggest to me is that the SOE is the white flag. It is our surrender that we are incapable of solving that particular problem, that we are unable to reach a point where our investigative capacity and efficiency and our ability to prosecute can ever circumvent that problem. And so now we have to resort, based on that surrender, based on that failure, to something that is beneath us, that is the compromising of human right values that we respect.
But I trust and hope that when you say we, you're not just equating to the police, because the responsibility of fighting crime is that of everybody. It's a social problem. And so the police is just at the bottom tail of that funnel. The masses in that funnel are the people. At the end of the day, everybody have a responsibility. From the parents, the teachers, the churches, the society in a whole. We all have a responsibility to make sure that that crime is contained. When a crime is committed, then the police would then take over and would do what needs to be done to try and solve the crime. But even in the police's effort to try and solve the crime, it still requires the societal aspect of it to be able to come forward and give the police whatever may be needed to be able to solve crime. And you'll find that many a times when police interview persons who are witness to crime, they would normally say, I will tell you this after the record, but I can't tell you in no statement because I fear that they will come after me. And as much as that is difficult for us as police to accept, we have to accept it because we understand where they're coming from. And it goes back to show the terror in which these young men who are involved in street conflicts have our society, to the extent that they don't even want to speak up to be able to make sure that justice is served for the loss of their loved ones. And when we have a society like that, the state will have to do something to be able to make sure that they, to some extent, neutralizes the problem. We wish that we can do it through investigations, but again, because of the lack of the cooperation from witnesses, we cannot do it through that for many reasons. So we have to resort to other measures. And you find that when these young men are detained under the SOE, witnesses feel more free to come forward and speak because they don't see them on the streets, and they have that sense of safety. And that was the reason why we were able to solve many of the past murders while they were incarcerated, because people then felt more safe to come forward and give the police statements against them.
I don't know if that is some kind of accepted terminology for police work, that if you're able to hold a suspect, it means you've solved it. It doesn't make sense to me. I feel like solving a crime means that we have found the right person.
Solvability and clearance are two different things. The police did solvability and the court did the clearance rate. All
right. Like I said, I accept that this might be some kind of technical description. At the same time, it not sound good to me and it not sound accurate to me that a thing has been solved if the outcome is not the right person being held accountable. That's just my opinion. We have to take a break, but because this caller is the first caller, I don't want to feel like I shut them off. So, caller, if you want to be quick, we could get into it. Morning, welcome to WB.
Yeah, man. Morning, brother Mose. Morning, Commissioner.
Morning, sir.
This coming from the Commissioner one mouth. He said that the situation with the gentleman against Mr. Flowers that was hit in the head with the padlock, that he believed the sentencing from Mr. Martinez was excessive. So I just want to say, and don't get me wrong, Commissioner, I do agree with you. The gentleman with pulling the uniform also, you have to respect the police officers, as well as police officers have to respect the public. So there are two-way things. So I totally agree with you on that. But if you was in Mr. Flowers' shoes, and you get hit in the head with the padlock while incarceration, how much time you would like Mr. Martinez to get?
Sir, I base my comments I base my comments based on the law. I studied law for 5 years, and I read thousands and thousands of case laws.
Thousands and thousands of case laws.
Yes, and,
that's a lot of case laws.
At law school, but Mose, you sleep per paper, right?
I've never been there.
So I have never seen an instance where a person who has been charged for wounding for the first offense is sent to prison, and that's the premise on which I had said that. I do agree that when you have instances of police abuse, because again, when a court makes a pronouncement, the court will always look at public policy, and you have to have good public policies. So if the court was trying to implement a public policy to police to say, you know what, don't abuse the public, because if you abuse the public, we will send you to jail. That's a good public policy, so that police officers know, do not abuse the public unnecessarily. But equally, you must also set good public policy to the public to say, if you assault the police, you go in jail likewise. Because, like the young man said, you have to respect the police. And with the matter in Orange Walk, it's not because I'm the commissioner of police. When a court sentences a person, the court looks at aggravating factors, and the court looks at mitigating factors. So, Martinez may have had a good mitigating factor because, according to him, Mr. Flowers had gone and shoot his home where his wife and children were. Mr. Flowers was also charged for that offense, but there was some negotiation. I'm not going to go through that between them, and Martinez withdrew against Mr. Flowers. But despite the mitigating factors, he still got 5 months. Now, in the case where the young man had assaulted me, his mitigating factor was that he did not know I was a commissioner. It does not matter. The fact remains you must respect all police, whether it's a commissioner or a constable. So for him to have used that mitigating factor, I don't think that should have been sufficient for him not to go to prison. You must also say to the public, you assault the police, you're going to jail. And police, you assault the public, you're going to jail. It must be both ways.
We go to break, Commissioner. We'll be back. This is Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's the 2nd of October, 2024. It is also what we are calling YouTube Day, because after 3 months, jail sentence, really. It's like we serve the SOE ourselves on YouTube. We are back up on, what is it? Yes, sir, I know. Allow me, please, for just remind people that we are back up on YouTube and we've been away. It's not that we want to be away from you folks who are able to get us on YouTube. Clearly, we know that people don't deal with the cable again, so you got your nice big flat screen somewhere, and you got the smart TV and all your different apps, and your YouTube is one of them. And we are telling you that we are back, so you are able to get us this morning. And going forward, we hope to remain out of jail. We hope to minimize the strikes. We're doing our best in that regard. Hope that the entire team is hearing that we're streaming back on YouTube. Please, don't make we get back in trouble again with them people or anything. Because we want it on YouTube. Link with it. Also subscribe. Make we get your subscriptions up. We are challenging you right now for subscribe today. But with that said, we go to 2 Cents Scam, and then we take our first break of the morning. All right, welcome back to the WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Mose Hyde here in the house on this 2nd of October, Wednesday morning. It's YouTube Day. Miss B, I'm glad you're happy that we are back on YouTube. Tell your friend, for tell your friend, for tell your family, for tell your cousin, for tell your sweetheart. We don't care. Just make sure the word there out that we are up and available. And we're doing our best to make sure we're not end up in that jailhouse again. This morning, our guests, as a part of our celebrating Back to YouTube Day, we have the Commissioner of Police, the most interviewed man in the whole country. Without you, I don't know, you make we get enough news. We make only $1, $2 here and there. Yeah, and good, sir.
I have to start asking for commission.
Your availability now, sir. I would like to, well, I have to pause, take the call. WB, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. All right. So, this whole thing that I have to bring up, the current thing is in the headlines. You've spoken on it, the matter of the Minister Andre Perez in San Pedro. And the thought occurred to me. I hear the presentation, and it seems like you know this was something that you know is. So we have a call. Let's see if the caller is going to get on. WB, good morning.
Good morning. I have a question for the commissioner. I called more than one time and mentioned about the my things that were stolen out of my house. I made 2 complaints. The officer came here. He got statement from me, and so far I don't know anything that is happening. Can the commissioner explain to me what went wrong, or how do I need to go about finding out about it? Because then I was told that when they arrest the person, they would take me in, and then a questioning would go on.
I can't really and truly update you because I wouldn't keep track of all cases. I just try to.
Didn't
keep
you say
track
it's
of
been how long?
the major ones.
I think you had called. You had called. How long has it been?
I went there and I made a report in January. I made a report in February. Your officers came here, took a statement from me. The leading officer even came at my house and spoke with me. And since then, I don't have any feedback. And my things, they are missing. My clothes, they are missing.
Didn't you mention that they are aware that somebody has been selling your stuff?
Yes, I spoke to a young man who told me that the same individual came up to him on Racecourse Street selling plates and cups and glasses.
Okay.
What's your name, ma'am?
My name? My name is Garbot.
What Garbot?
Do you want me to give the whole name on the phone?
Okay, Garbot. Which station you reported to?
I reported at Family Unit on Queen Street.
Domestic violence?
Yes.
Do you know the name of the officer who dealt with you?
The officer was Paul Herrera. He was the first one, and the other one was Miss I forget her name, but I have her name written down.
Okay, it's okay. This was an issue within your home, your family structure. So a family member stole from you.
Yeah, what happened, sir? I was going out, and I had 2 persons working on the circular wire on my fence. And they were new to me. I didn't know them as any thieves, so I asked for my brother to stay here. And when I was leaving, before I closed the door, I normally close the door, but I was grieving because my husband had just died. And I asked him, I said, it's okay for me to leave the door unlocked? And he said, yes. And I left upstairs and downstairs unlocked. And it was this Saturday night or so, midnight, when I noticed that he went into my wardrobe and certain things was not the way how I saw it, that I became aware. But one of the workmen was telling me, he said, I hope you get back your things. Well, I didn't understand what was happening. opening. And one day when I was sitting in a chair, I noticed my China closet was open. And that made me aware of certain things. And when I started to check around, I noticed my dresses missing. He went into the different chest of drawers. All my husband's tools and things that he had upstairs was removed. He went into where I kept my cups. He stole knife sets, all kind of things. He went with all my tablecloth. He went with the kitchen towel, wash rug, quilts. He went through my house, even a new purse that I bought, he went with, and so I know my things.
Ma'am, my number is 610 5716. Kindly send me a text message on WhatsApp, and when I get off the show, I'll check with the domestic violence unit and get an update, and I'll update you.
610
5716, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because you have a mail from me too, you know, sir.
A mail?
Yes.
Okay, I've not seen it.
I text you through WhatsApp.
Okay, just send me a message in here. I get so many WhatsApp messages, and sometimes I get lost, right?
610
5716. 5716.
Okay, let me just write it down here.
Yes, ma'am.
610 5716.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Telephone number is 280-5848. Commissioner, what really I thought about when I saw this whole thing with this cocaine that's been stashed in Minister Perez's boat in the boatyard is fair enough. That's the position that the police department has on what has taken place here. I think about people who have called this show over the years who have said that they're being harassed because things have been thrown into their yards. Because we know that that happens. We know that people that has happened. People have used other people's yards, hide stuff in there. That happens. But there are individuals who are not given that kind of benefit of the doubt. That kind of who if they're in certain neighborhoods, in certain income brackets, they still have to go and defend themselves. And a hard thing for defend yourself. If somebody throws something in your yard, it's like that's something we're always concern of mine. If you know that, boy, if that would ever happen, I know that even though I know that not mine, I know I end up in some serious problems.
I totally refute that statement.
You not believe that?
No, that's not true. The matter with Minister Perez.
Let me explain. But I want to know what specifically you're doing.
That's why I'll get to it.
Okay.
The matter with Minister Perez. The boat had been parked at a boatyard for over 6 months. Not used by him. It's an open boat. He doesn't even live near the boatyard.
I'm not questioning
right
this.
Now, the police got information that people were seen in the area putting things on the boat.
Okay.
It would be unfair for the police to even try to charge Mr. Perez for that. Now, if it was a boat that he had placed there, and the boat was secured, locked, and the police goes and open the boat and find something inside the boat, then yes, he would have some questions to answer. And like you said just a while ago, you're shooting a person's yard. This is not even Mr. Perez's yard. He lived far, far away from where the boatyard is. And I can tell you, almost every day, police would find drugs or guns in people's yard, and they're not charged. Now, if the yard is fenced, then they might have to answer. But if you have an open yard and somebody goes and throw thing into your yard, police find it. Police can't charge you for that. And we have, on a daily basis, we have situations like those where police find, at one point in time, we find drugs under the house of a person, under the ceiling. We couldn't charge him because the yard was open. They said that people could have walked in, the neighbor had thing against them, the neighbor must have put it there, and we never charged them because to convict a person in a court of law for something is going to be next to impossible. So we're not going to waste your time. So this has nothing to do with the economic or social status of Mr. Perez. It has to do with a matter of law. If there were anyone to be held accountable for the drugs in that boat, it would have been the owner of the boatyard because they're the ones who control it. But even for them, it would have been so unfair because the boatyard is not secured. It's one that is opened. It has many inlets and outlets. People can come in, and the fact that police even got information as to people who are seen in the area, it would be unfair to just to prosecute people for that. No. We have to be fair to people.
I try to understand exactly where they refute. Like, if you're saying that the police across the board, as a standard operating procedure, if they find something on a property and they are unable to prove that property,
but there's a nexus between that.
Yeah, that you guys don't do that.
We don't do that.
Okay,
no.
But I am saying to you, and I said it, that in the years that I've been on this talk show, I've had complaints come in about people who have been harassed for things.
That's not what I was saying, Brother Mose, but that's what people will say, but that's not the case.
All right, let's take the call. Krem, good morning. WB. Yes.
Hi, I'd like to make a comment, especially since you have the commissioner in studio. That incident that happened on the coastal road, right, with the guy that pulled an assault rifle on the work crew. Are you guys listening?
Yes, sir, I'm listening.
Yeah, I want to know why, I live down here and I know some of these people and I know the connections that guy have, right? And the fact that they dropped those charges just like that, the word out on the street down here is that guy paid off the people so that they're not bringing charges. And I know down here that's how that works. That guy is well connected down here with money people. I know them, I don't know them personally, but I know of them. I live down here.
Well,
so, I hope the commissioner deal with this situation and take with them gun for that guy, because somebody like that, he not going to self-defense. That's not an assault. Because he going to assault people because his truck was in an accident and he going to take over the scene with that gun. And that don't make no sense. I hope the commissioner deal with that situation. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of things that happen down here where the commissioner needs to go and check on and not deal with it on the air, but I want the man, if they could get the man number and send it to me, I will tell the man things that happen on the side.
My number is 610-5716. 610-5716.
675?
716.
675, 716.
610 5716.
All right, 610 5716.
Yes, sir.
Got it. All right, thank you guys. I hope the commissioner take care of this.
In respect to that matter down south, Brother Mose.
Things that happen on the side that the man needs to know about.
Yeah, I'll answer you right now with that matter with down south on the coastal road.
All right, you guys take care. Have a blessed day.
Okay, sir. In respect to that matter down south on the coastal road, the persons who were allegedly assaulted by the individual had come to the police before the matter went to the court, even before the person was even charged, saying to the police that they wished to drop the charges and they wanted to give statements in that respect. And the OC in Dangriga contacted me. I said to the OC, no, we're not going to accept it. It's a matter of a gun charge, and due to the severity of it, I believe that it must go before the court and let the court deal with the matter. And so we proceeded with charges, and the person was charged and went before the courts. When the matter went before the courts, the complainants went before the court and told the magistrate that they do not wish to proceed any further with the matter. That being the case, the magistrate is left with no other option but to dismiss the matter. So I don't think that there was any payment to the police or the magistrate, because it was a matter where the complainant had gone to drop the charges themselves. So if there was any money paid, then that would not be to the police or the court, but maybe perhaps to those persons who were who were allegedly violated by the individual. So I just want to make that clear that we did what we ought to have done to get the matter before the courts. In terms of the firearm, I no longer have the authority to revoke firearm license. That is now the prerogative of the Firearm and Ammunition Control Board. So what I have said is that we will make a presentation to the board for them to have the firearms revoked, the license of those firearms revoked.
Okay, Commissioner. Let me just mention that the telephone number is 2805-848, and while I have questions, my questions go to the back seat once you call. That's the way it works. We don't have we have already had the commission here for over an hour, and I understand his schedule, but I cannot have you leave without asking you about, this is something that we've spoken about on all the occasions that you've been here. And I want to connect it to what I feel to be everything when it comes to the investigative capacity of the police department. I had I think he was once the Deputy Commissioner Gillett.
Oh, however?
Yes.
Assistant Commissioner.
Assistant Commissioner. And he and I had a conversation one time, and he was telling me about the efforts that he had to take to be able to access training, and so that he really was fortunate to be able to get into courses, certain courses and all of that. And I wonder, and I've spoken to you about it as well, what percentage of your police officers are able to get you would call a professional improving courses and training, and are you comfortable with the level of access and availability and participation of your officers in that regard of being able to get into courses that improve their capacity?
Yes, but Mose, we do have access to a number of trainings, both locally and internationally. I can tell you that the police academy remains busy all year, and apart from the academy, we also have local in-service training at the various head stations across the country. Again, it is our mantra to make sure that we keep our police officers well trained and up to date with the different laws that are enacted. And so with that, we make sure that our legal office move around the country, and we had partnered with Human Rights International, and through them we did a number of human rights training, including trainers. And so what we do now is that Mr. Jones, who is the head of the legal office, would go across the country and make sure that every police officer across the country is trained in terms of the human rights norms. And then what we normally do is that the OCs would look at topics where they believe that the personnel may be weak in, and then those topics are sent upon to the training unit, and then the training unit will then develop courses on those. Bearing in mind that we do have the assistance of Ms. Priscilla Brown, who is the Dean of Academic Studies at the Training Academy. So she's the one who will be responsible to put together the training curriculum for the different courses that we would do. And just Monday in my usual Monday morning conference, I said to Ms. Hartins, I said, we do a lot of training every week, and we're not selling ourselves, and the public feel like we're not training. So I said to her to make sure that whenever we do training, that she must make sure she put it on the Facebook page so that people can see that we're training our officers. And when it comes to international training, we do get a lot through the U.S. Embassy, INL, in Salvador, in New Mexico, in different parts of the world. And we normally participate, and our officers would go and be a part of those training. And when they come back, we try to see how they can implement and train other officers locally. So training is something that we take very seriously. If you were to ask if we can do more training, the answer is going to be yes, because you can never be too trained.
All right. WB, good morning.
Good morning, Mose, and good morning, Mr. Commissioner. My name is Sandra Coy.
Good morning, ma'am.
Mr. Commissioner, a couple of questions. First of all, there is a racial bias to the persons who are who go through the process of preventive detention. You would agree? Or not?
I would not agree, ma'am, because it's not based on race. It's based on the data on the grounds in terms of who are the persons who are involved in the ongoing street conflicts.
And they are generally who?
They are generally persons of African descent.
Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you, so I'm trying to understand if you don't see the people don't see that there is a racial bias there.
I wouldn't say so.
I'm not saying you have any responsibility to solve that, but to accept that there is a racial bias there.
I wouldn't say it's a bias, ma'am. To accept it's a racial bias, it means that you're acting based on race, and it has been biased.
No, I'm not saying you're acting based on race. I'm saying that the people detained belong to a certain ethno-racial category. And once that happens in any society, don't you think that society has a responsibility to question why and set about correcting that bias?
Well, the why is obvious, ma'am, because then the why is because they are the persons who are involved.
Pardon, I didn't get that part. What did you say?
I said the why is obvious. They are the people who are involved. That answers the why. I can't lock down Hispanics or Asian people when the people of African descent create the problem. Or Mennonites. No, I can't. Then I'm going to be
or Indians or anybody
exactly,
else.
yeah.
Because they don't belong. See, Mr. Williams, when I studied this, because my training is in the social sciences, right? When I look at this, I see a worrying, alarming resemblance to what is being done in the West Bank in this whole Middle Eastern problem involving the Israelis and the Palestinians. Now, they don't call it preventive detention, they call it administrative detention. But it operates on the same grounds. People are picked up, and the only people picked up are the Palestinians, not the Israelis. And when in their case, they don't get the list of horrors. You can check them in the case, in the documentation of the case brought recently completed recently that was brought to the UN General Assembly to assess whether there was an occupation going on in the Palestinian territories. That is Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. And when you study that, Mr. Williams, there is a worrisome similarity. And the similarity also extends to what happened in apartheid South Africa. So that they have, apartheid is one of the charges, and it is one of the issues on which the ruling was made. And in the case of South Africa, what you had was what the name given to these enclaves of people, where the South African police was able to go in at random and will almost and apprehend people and haul them off, were Bantustans. Now in the Palestine, they don't have that name, at least not in English, but all the experts have agreed there's a similarity. But in the case of the Palestine, what is used to create the separation is police checkpoints. In Belize City, what we have are Chinese shops, and when you have some police, but you don't have a police checkpoint at every enclave. But you have an internal policing system with the members of I do not like the word gang structure, but I'm going to use that pertain to each enclave. And then this carries on now into the detention process. And I don't think it is the police to determine that. But I think, Mr. Williams, that if the police were to see this sociologically, anthropologically, they can then make representation to the politicians to understand this problem more deeply, and the populace to understand it more deeply. And the Prime Minister, for years I have been talking about the criminal economy. Is that right or wrong, Mose?
Yeah.
For years, Mr. Williams, I have put a percentage of the economic activity to that criminal economy. My standard has been 60%, going higher, but not very much lower. And the people who dominate that criminal economy, particularly the criminal economy that involves the sale of illicit drugs, so not so much trafficking in persons, but be these your children who, so many of them have ended up in Lordridge Cemetery. That's where they've ended. Their lifespan is very short. And even when they live a little long, maybe 50 years, some of them get killed. And I can't understand why we are not prepared to examine that. Because when you go beyond apartheid, beyond Palestine, and go back to slavery, not in Belize, but in the rest of the Caribbean, each plantation was an enclave. There was no communication allowed between plantations in order to keep control over the labor force. Is that right or wrong, Mose?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I have read in history, no doubt.
Yes. And so we have a similar segregation system in this city. We have whether we want to accept it or not, it is there. And when those children end up in jail and end up in the graveyard, because they have already been demonized and stigmatized, there is no concern about their humanity. When they pass away, we are glad we may even raise a drink in some corners to their death and their experience that they have expired. And why it's very worrying, Mr. Williams, is we are at a historical moment, as you know, because you're a man of the world and you travel and know that the world is facing the possibility of a global cataclysmic, catastrophic, whatever name we want to give it, coming apart. It's already begun there in the Middle East. And wouldn't it behove us in countries like ours, who have gone through that sort of terrible historical experience, to examine our societies now, to make sure, do we have the seeds of what has happened there amongst us? And if we do, what are we to do to clean up our societies, restructure them, so we don't end up as part of that transformation that's happening there? I think that is utterly necessary. That is my contribution for the morning. It is not, as my expectations are not that police are to solve this, but you are at the front line of the fight. And you in particular have a trained mind. So therefore, it is obligatory on you, on all of us with trained minds, to put our the brains to work, to help get our society's problems solved, but most of all at this moment in time, to stop what is happening over there in the Middle East, crossing the Atlantic and exploding on this side of the Atlantic. And by that time it has already begun to explode on this side. As we speak, the Mexican president is being installed, but all of the west of Mexico technically is in civil war, technically, especially Michoacan. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Ms. Corey. I have to let you go, but give you your last word in response to Ms. Corey's.
I respectfully disagree with the comments of Ms. Sandra Coy. I must say that she is a person who is well read, and I have the utmost respect for her knowledge. And in terms of what happens in the Middle East between Israel and the Palestine, that certainly is something that aspect of humanity should denounce. Certainly advantage has been taken of the Palestinian people, and I believe that we have demonstrated our protest against that through our government. They even had a march, I think, last year in Belize in respect of that, and even before the UN, Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs had also made it clear. But when we try to equate what happens in the Middle East and even the apartheid to Belize, I think that we're mixing apples and oranges, for the simple fact that as police officers, we would normally be responsible to go after persons who are involved in criminal activities. And if it is that there is a neighborhood and your neighbor is giving trouble, I don't see why the police must go for you, when in fact it is not you who is the problem. And so when we look at people to be detained under the SOE, we go after those persons who are the problematic people. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, Hispanic, whatever. It just so happens that as the current status quo is, that majority of those people are of African descent. Now, it is not something that we can say that as a society we have given up on our black people. And I have spent countless hours with these young men in interventions and in mediations, trying as best as I can along with Brother Nuri, Brother Fotegongara, Sister Dominique, Brother Dawson, you know, and the rest of us, to see how we can try and mold them and influence them to try and change the lifestyle that they live in. And I always say to them, look at yourselves in this room. All of us look the same. We're all people of African descent. And we have so many things in common, right? Why are we going to fighting over those things that we do not have in common instead of focusing on what we have in common? And if we look at the efforts of the state, the efforts of the police, we have evolved to the extent that some people are saying that we're too accommodating to these gang members because we, to some extent, have implemented social policing. We're doing interventions. We should not be doing that, but we are doing it now. We're doing, having programs for at-risk youths. We should not be doing that, but we do these things because we want to make sure that we help our society as best as we can. The government implemented LIU, found fundings for LIU to be able to give employment opportunity to these young men, simply because we want them to have a normal, lawful way of life. And even that, some of them don't accept. We have seen that some of them are changing. They're making great strides in changing, but we still have a few of them who continue to live that lifestyle. And so what must we do? In the failure of everything else that we have implemented to try and help them, must we just sit back and allow them to continue to extinct themselves? If we allow that, then we don't love them. When one of these young men get killed, it pains my heart because I know the effort I've spent with them. I get to know them personally. So for me, it's like a brother dying. And so I always try my best to make sure that we do as much as we can to keep them alive. But we can only do so much. If you take the horse to the water and the horse don't want to drink, the horse is not going to drink. And that is the case in many of these instances where we try, but behind our back, in our absence, they do what they want to do.
I think, though, Commissioner, I think you might have missed the point that was being made to you. And I think the point was not about what you should do, but what the society needs to do, and an evaluation of why this exists. It's the equivalent of when we were going through the COVID pandemic. You had the frontline workers who were dealing with the people who were getting sick, and they would be at the hospital, and they would be fighting with the respiratory stress, they were fighting with the temperature, fighting to keep those patients alive. Those were frontline people. But what was required was for people at all levels of the response to that pandemic, trying to understand the pandemic, trying to understand what was causing people to become so physically ill. The frontline people in the hospital were not doing that. You had people who were trying to figure out how it works, people who were trying to figure out what would be the remedies, people who were working on the vaccines, people who were looking at who were responsible for the information, for the analysis, and for there to be such a response that the people in the hospital would not be faced with the number of people who were ending up in there who were critically ill. So what was being proposed to you by Ms. Corey's input was that we are looking here about 30 to 40 years worth of this street conflict, of so many dead, so many have been jailed. We are reaching now the point where the remedies that we are using on the front line have become even more drastic in personal SOE. Should it be not look at better understanding and committing the kind of input to understanding the root cause of this pandemic, so that you are not faced with what you are faced with in the hospital, where you have to deal with individuals who have become entrapped? But because I think you are to not understand that, or to not make room for that, is to say that what we have here is a case where our young men are simply born with the inclination to be that they came out of the womb to be that. And you will never be able to convince me of that. I think that that is completely ridiculous, and to a great extent, anybody who subscribes to that genuinely are people that are racist, who are going to convince themselves that, oh, this was just in their genetics to be that, and that's not the case. And if that's not the case, then there is an analysis that still eludes us. And we must be committed to that analysis and not just be preoccupied with what we're doing on the front line.
But Mose, I agree with you that we're all born innately good. I fully agree with that. And circumstances in our environment where we grew up may have taken us a different route along the way. But again, that's the reason why the government invested so much money in LIU. LIU is a multi-sectoral approach of fighting crime, looking at the root causes and see how they can stem it from the root causes. And so you find that Sister Dominique spends a lot of time looking at risk youths and see what can be done to get them out of that risky area. We see where the Ministry of Education is now giving free education to Southside Belize City, would be expanded
LIU is frontline as well.
Yes,
but,
no, but they're looking at beyond, because remember, LIU is not just the LIU itself. You know, you have social department, you have community rehab department, you have women's department, you have the churches, you have the NGOs that are part of LIU. So and the reason why we have all of those components is for us to be able to look beyond the symptoms of crime, but what is actually causing the crime itself. So that is what government has put in place. But as much as the government put those things in place, if we don't get the cooperation from the parents who are raising these children, who for some reason or the other, some of them are very tolerant to the criminal behavior of their children, we're not going to change. So the government can pump in all the money they want to pump in. If we don't get the support from the parents themselves, we're not going to make the road that we want to make.
Commissioner, because of time, I will leave you with that word. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, Madam. It was always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Commissioner of Police Chester Williams, our guest this morning. We're going to take a break. We're being bad without breaks. We take a break, we'll be back. Welcome back. This is Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, Wednesday morning, the 2nd of October 2024. Mose Hyde in the house hosting today, and we had as guests for first couple segments of the show, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams. Our telephone number, excuse me, is 280-5848. That is the live line for you to participate in the conversation. We have a call. Krem, good morning, WB.
Good morning, Mose. Good morning, Belize. Sister Yaya. I'm back from the favorite seat as well. Good morning.
What up? What up? Welcome back.
Two things. First off, I'm not pleased at all with that ad on the air for Miami Caribbean Carnival, having the black sisters, none of them best lights. I mean, we don't black media house. And I know we need the ads. But not everything we call we bite. We need to set the order. That just broke my heart when I said that this morning. So I forget that from the chest. Secondly, before I left, I said that I want to have to call upon Wednesdays for an on-air campaign against the Ministry of Education when it comes to hair discrimination. Now, there's more than one action you have to take, inclusive of the Wednesday mornings on-air campaigns. So today is day 29. The first day was September 4th, when it was first reported about the hair discrimination at ACC. Now, UBUD Educational Foundation, which is the organization I'm the spokesperson for, and our focus is consciousness raising for the liberation of African people, racialized as black people at home and in the diaspora. The position is that the Ministry of Education is aware of the constitutional violation of a number of schools in Belize for a period of time. Now, 6 years ago, under a UDP administration, and I bring this up to say that under both administrations, this systemic hair discrimination happened. So then our Channel 7 news story from 2018, where the then CEO of the Ministry of Education was Carol Bob. I never even noticed till I find this one this morning, listeners. And this is what she said, so no, I'm going to look for this one because I never know about it. This is the quote what she said in 2018. The story is called Hyde, Chief Ed Nazarene High students should not have been sent home. And this is what she said 6 years ago, September 7, 2018. Well, you know of the case of ecumenical where the child had dreads, right? And the school did not want to allow the child into school. We advised the school to take in the child because children have rights too. They have constitutional rights. But the school persisted, and so the mother took the case to court, and the school lost. And we had advised her. No, I never aware of that case, so I have to go look on that case to say who the parent carried a court, if it was the Ministry of Education or the school itself. That's, I mean, at 2018. Then you have a Mandela News story from 2022 with a chief executive officer under this administration, Diane Mejia, also they use our quote on her, where she makes the point to say, the one thing that we also want to make clear is the fact that enshrined in our Constitution is that schools cannot and should not remove students or deny students admission to a classroom based on length of hair. So I just show under both administration, you have CEOs that say there was a violation of the Constitution for schools deny children their education. Then here comes the Minister of Education again this year, 2024, September 3rd, this is from 5 News report. Among other things, they say, we want our students to be disciplined, of course, but these rules cannot be unconstitutional. They cannot be arbitrary. They cannot be discriminatory in any manner. So here we have documentation that the Ministry of Education is aware of this pattern of hair discrimination, is aware of a violation of the Constitution, yet the Ministry of Education not do nothing to ensure that the discrimination stops, that there are penalties where it's so severe and discourage anybody from even think about discriminate against one other child when it comes to hair. So this is a UAF position. I'm calling as many Wednesdays as I could and keep the numbers alive. So this is how much there is at the calling that this is our community concern. Today is day 29. Keep in mind that next year our election year. I want to know how it go. People have to start to, it's our interest to you as a community. They say children and their parents make up families will vote. We have to start to center the things that will matter to we and be very clear to politicians, future politicians, this will matter to we. So, it's up to the state if they want to continue our careers, but we are up to ante, so I want to keep this campaign going. This week, I'm going to apply for a permit. My intention, I don't want bad leave, but I will work with it, is every Wednesday to go to the District Education Center on Mahogany Street and protest from 8 to 5. For the Ministry of Education, the state by default, to ensure that hair discrimination stops in our school that believes. The opportunity for the community to come out and say, we support this is our issue, every academic year of the same thing. And the third action we have to look at, we're still in a consultation with attorney to find out what the legal action we could take. So it's set to Belizean people. You saw how the state know to go, we're a Palestine and get enough identity business. But they don't get enough we business for the violation that's our students. They know to go, we're a Palestine, but they don't know to look after Haitian people business, color black people. Now, I know they hear discrimination on only black people, but the majority of the news stories, the black, identifiable black African descendants, racialized as black people, who have hair discrimination. So I just want to touch base with them coming yesterday, tell them about power form, and to say to the Belizean people, since only the people want to save the people, if we don't make this, for example, a priority, hair discrimination, then the discrimination continues. It's up to we, and I'll give them no space. I'm going to apply for the permit this week to make a protest, make the first protest, because I'm on Wednesday when the news story first broke. September 4th, I'm on Wednesday. So then I look for the first Wednesday where I want to have one protest, want to be next, where I'll be, Wednesday the 2nd, no, today the 2nd. Well, hold on, bear with me. So I'll be the 9th of October is a Wednesday. So the 9th of October, I hope to be the first weekly Wednesday protest in front of the District Education Office in Belize City on Mahogany Street from 8 to 5. That's my 2 cents. Anything else you want to Brother Mose?
No, give thanks. Welcome back home.
One love, only the people, I save the people.
All right, we take a break. We'll be back.
The Office of the Prime Minister invites you to the National MSME
we quickly, well, since we're running out of time, we kind of ran out of time on this Wednesday morning. So we have to be prepared for what could potentially be very negative consequences for the unraveling situation in the Middle East. It is not alien to us and not alien insofar as consequences which will further aggravate already difficult situations, in particular with inflation. And the leadership of the country has a responsibility to be leading the cause in figuring out how to mitigate. We don't control, put out any press release we want to put out. The powers that are operating in that space are not interested in our press releases or what we have to say. I guess we feel the need to do so and be on the record cool. Reality is, though, is that it doesn't look good. And while we have no impact on what's taking place there is going to have an impact on us. And we have to be in front of those possibilities, because I don't see how that situation is going to now step back. It doesn't seem likely. That's my opinion. The rhetoric is very, very high, very fiery, and the situation seems to be leading towards a potential showdown between Israel and Iran. Just as where it is right now, Israel is presently occupied on military fronts in Gaza, in Lebanon, and with yesterday's missile attack, they are vowing a level of vengeance on Iran, which seems to be what you would call a road without return. And the implications for cost of goods, cost of fuel are not good. And we have to really look at that seriously and preemptively put in place means to prevent the kind of harsh impact on our reality. And I'm speaking at the level of leadership. It's not looking good. And it will not be pleasant. We're gonna go to a final break, come back and wrap up.
Remember, not all light bulbs are created
All right, Willies, we've got to leave. We thank you for being here with us. We got to acknowledge the team that make it work. Larry G at Creme Radio, at XTV, Harlan Wagner, and in the control room, Alex Sibilide. We hope you have a great Wednesday. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6:30 for Thursday, WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. As always, stand strong, stand firm. For now, we're gone!
Wake up, Belize. 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 Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show by people. Belize our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. It's the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that must happen like I got blue skies. I love it make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na.